Good afternoon to everybody. My name is GORAN Nikolovsky. In the following minutes, I will try to present the novelties arising from the new, recently adopted CBM regulation concerning the carbon border adjustment mechanism for goods imported within the European Union coming from third parties. As you know, our country is contracting party of the Energy Community Secretariat, where it is obliged to transpose the European legislation in energy, the key, into national legislation. So far, we have adopted several strategic documents and strategies, as an energy law, energy efficiency law, energy development strategy till 2040, national energy and climate action plan. In terms of environment, long-term strategy on climate action till 2050, law on climate action, which is in draft text, third biennial update report on climate change, and enhanced national determined contribution. The Fit for 55 package aims to deliver the transformational change needed in a cost-efficient and competitive way while ensuring a just and fair transition, contribute to the European Green Deal objective of EU-wide climate neutrality by 2050, ensure that the transition is fair and leaves no one behind, policy mix between pricing measures, target standards and support measures. The aim of the CBM is to prevent carbon leakage to ensure effectiveness of EU climate policy, complements and reinforce the EU ETS, contributes to decarbonization globally and to reaching climate neutrality by 2050. Key element of the design is to mirror EU carbon pricing through new mechanism for imports into EU, aligned with EU international policies and legal commitments, including World Trade Organization compatibility, addressed to companies, not countries, based on actual carbon content of imported goods, takes into account carbon price effectively paid by third country operator. Sectors which are concerned with this regulation in the first phase are the cement, iron and steel, aluminium, fertilizers, electricity and hydrogen sector. Includes some precursors and downstream products selected on the basis of three criteria: high risk of carbon leakage, covering more than 45% of CO2 emissions of ETS sectors, practical feasibility, in second stage may be extended to other ETS sector. Monitoring, gradual implementation of the CBM is envisaged in the next period. First came the transitional phase, which has been started since 1st of October 2023, and it will last till December 2025, where we have monitoring and reporting, implementing rules adopted by the CBM Committee of the EU member states. In 2025, we have review for the potential scope extension to other ETS sectors, indirect emissions, impact on least developed countries, progress in international climate discussions. And in 2026, we have start of gradual phase-in of CBM and phase-out of free ETS allowances. About the reporting obligation in each phase, in transitional phase, we have CBM report containing the following: total quantity of goods imported during the preceding quarter, total embedded direct and indirect emissions, the carbon price due in the country of origin for the embedded emissions, and this report to be submitted quarterly. In post-transition phase, we have CBM declaration containing the following: total quantity of goods imported during the preceding calendar year, total embedded emissions in those goods, emissions to be verified by EU accredited verifier, total number of CBM certificates to be surrendered, the carbon price effectively paid in the country of origin for the embedded emissions. Declaration to be submitted each year. Emissions under CBM scope are direct emissions generated from the production of CBM goods at installation level, then in the indirect emissions of coming from input material under CBM scope and also electricity consumed for the production of CBM goods. Raw materials are not in CBM scope. Here is an example of simple and complex goods in the iron and steel industry, where we have outside the scope raw materials like limestone, iron ore, coal, and coke. Then we have precursors and simple goods like sinter, hot metal, and semi-finished, and complex steel goods, which is finished steel goods like tubes. Calculation of the adjustment is according to following formula. Actual emissions of the installation producing imported products minus emissions covered by free allocation under the EU ETS for the relevant product, multiplied by total tons of imported product and multiplied by price of certificates, which is average weekly price of the EU ETS. The result is the CBM obligations minus obligation paid in the exporting country on the basis of equivalent scheme applied in that country, which gives us the result as an adjustment. The transitional period is a learning phase for all, understanding respective roles and tasks, collection of information, facilitate smooth roll-out of the mechanism after the 2025. The information collected will allow the European Commission to further specify and finalize methodology and find synergies with existing monitoring schemes. The information collected will fit into the review of the mechanism by 2025 and provide further clarity of the functioning. Reporting flexibilities reflect the above and aim to introduce openness and balancing a smooth introduction with information needs. The scope of the ETS is based on installations carrying out activities leading to GHG emissions. The scope of the CBM is based on goods. Therefore, the CBM methodology will translate ETS methods for the calculation of emissions at installation level into methods for imported goods. This means setting rules to narrow the system boundaries from production sites down to the level of goods. But a key difference between CBM and ETS is the distinction of simple and complex goods. The scope of the ETS is based on installations carrying out activities leading to GHG emissions. The scope of the CBM is based on goods. Therefore, the CBM methodology will translate ETS methods for the calculation of emissions at installations level into methods for imported goods. This means setting rules to narrow the system boundaries from production sites down to the level of goods. But a key difference between CBM and ETS is the distinction of simple and complex goods. Steps to determine embedded emissions are the following. First step, define the installation boundaries, production processes, and production routes. Second step, perform monitoring direct emissions at installation level, originating from fuel combustion, monitoring flows of net measurable heat, monitoring electricity consumption, monitoring the consumption of precursors. Third step is attribute emissions to production processes, then to goods. Fourth step is for complex goods and embedded emissions of precursors. And the fifth step is monitoring and reporting of indirect emissions. Monitoring methods will be the following. Calculations-based methodology, which can be standard methodology based on predetermined emission factors that represent the average emissions per unit of input or output. The mass balance method, based on the idea that what comes into an installation cannot be more than what comes out. Measurement-based methodology, continuous emission monitoring system of emissions from emission sources at installation level. Emissions may be measured directly in the stack or using extractive procedures with a measurement instrument located close to the stack. Other monitoring systems until 31st of December 2024 the level of embedded emissions may be calculated using an eligible monitoring, reporting, and verification system. One of the following methods if they lead to similar coverage and accuracy of emissions data: a carbon pricing scheme where the installation is located, or a compulsory emission monitoring scheme where the installation is located, or an emission monitoring scheme at the installation which can include verification by an accredited verifier. Here is the calculation of the attributed direct emissions and the calculation of the embedded emissions. The most important, how to submit the report. Who is the responsible for the reporting? The reporting declarant. Same as the authorized CBM declarant, but not authorization needed yet. How can the reporting declarant submit a report? Gain access to the CBM transitional registry, request login via portal, fill out mandatory fields in the registry, indicate if reporting is by importer or on behalf of an importer. Submit the report no later than 1 month after the quarter. Is there flexibility for the submission? Yes. A report can be modified 2 months after the reported quarter. For the first 2 CBM reports, modification is accepted until July 2024. After the deadlines, possibility to request reopening for correction is existing. What to submit? A role of third country operations of installation. Monitor and collect data on embedded emissions, possibility to use templates and guidance documents provided by the Commission, communicate data to reporting declarants, possibility to use templates provided by the Commission. Is verification needed? Not yet, in this stage. What information is necessary to be communicated for the reporting? Information on the goods, quantity, type identified by CN code, country of origin. Info on the installation, company name, address, location, geocoordinates. Info on the production, routes, parameters. Then information about the emissions, specific, direct, and specific, indirect. Information on carbon price paid at production country, also for precursors. Is there flexibility for the reporting? Until 31st of December 2024. Methods used under monitoring, reporting, and verification systems. QR methods used in case of a carbon pricing scheme, emission monitoring scheme at the installation, or compulsory monitoring scheme. Until 31st of July 2024, any other reference method. Possibility to use default values for input materials or sub-processes when relatively minor compared to total emissions. There are available guidance and support by the Commission Communication and Training on its website concerning trainings, guidance, templates, dedicated information portal, and IT reporting interface. Last but not the least, the Commission tasks during this transitional period to manage the CBM transitional registry, check the CBM quarterly reports and communicate with National Customs Authority, analyze the impact of CBM on exports, downstream products, trade flows, LDCs, etc. Prepare secondary legislation for the definitive period, authorization of declarants, accreditation of verifiers, CBM registry, selling of CBM allowances, carbon price paid, ETS price and benchmarks, final methodology, risk of circumvention, etc. Set up the common central platform for the sale and repurchasing of CBM allowance. Thank you for your attention.